Hello guys, welcome to your Python programming tutorials. So in these tutorials, we are going to be looking at the Python statement. What's the Python statement? So a lot of times if you're listening to a Python video, if you are watching any tutorials on Python, or if you're reading any Python book, you're going to come across the word statement. So a statement in Python, for example, I'm just going to read a few things before explaining. So a Python statement is an instruction that a Python interpreter can execute. Simply speaking, anything written in Python is a statement. Python statements end with a new line character, implying each line in Python script is a statement. Optionally, you can add a semicolon at the end of a Python statement. Python also has multi-line statements like conditional statement and looping construction. I'm going to show you all that in this video. All right, so let's move straight to the video. So normally, this is an example of a Python statement. You see, every of them have a single line. Normally, it's optional to include semicolons at the end of a statement. So as you can see here, I'm assigning the value 70 to the identifier score, 2.5 to identifier bonus. I'm calculating them and doing some stuff which you're going to learn later on in later videos. But I'm just trying to show you guys examples of a Python statement. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 statements in Python, and I executed it and it interpreted correctly. So we have other statements here. As you can see, these statements end with a semicolon. It's optional, but you need to add a semicolon. Most programming languages like C and some other programming languages, especially type language like Java, semicolons are compulsory, must include a semicolon at the end of the statement. But Python, statements end with a new line. Once Python sees you moving to the next line, it knows the statement above has ended. So Python, semicolons are optional, while in most other programming language, semicolons are compulsory. So let's move to the next stuff. Now you can have in Python, you can't have multiple statements on the same line. For example, we have bar1 equals to 20 bar2. You see there's an error because we are trying to write multiple statements on the same line. But if you want to do this, which is not normally recommended, you can actually add multiple statements on the same line by using a semicolon to separate each of your statements. So as you can see, we use a semicolon here, semicolon here, semicolon here, and we have a semicolon here. So we are using semicolons to actually separate these statements into different groups, into different statements, but we use semicolons. So here we have 1 statement, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 statements here on the same line. You must use semicolon in this case if you want to put multiple statements on the same line. In this case, we tried to do it, but we didn't use a semicolon, so it failed. So that's one advantage of using semicolon, but it's not advisable to have multiple statements on the same line. All right. Now, sometimes statements become very long. For example, here is a statement, area of cube. We are trying to calculate the area of a cube. You can see from this line, you see the statement is very long. It reaches right up to the end. Now, if you want it to use to write one statement on multiple lines, you use what we call the line continuation character, which is a backslash. Here is it. So we use a backslash. Immediately after the backslash, you enter, you press enter and go to the next line. So you see here is another statement, here is another statement. So here we have a statement spanning 3 lines. All right, so here we have a statement spanning 3 lines, which is also valid in Python. As you can see, our code executed correctly. Now, like I said earlier, we have multiple line statements in Python, like conditional statements. For example, you see this is a while statement. Now, you can't just end it with a semicolon here. It's going to be an error. A while statement includes its body, which we call a suite of statements. You see this while statement has 3 statements within it, and all of them have the same indentation from the left-hand side, as you can see, about 4 spaces. So as you can see, we call this kind of statements multi-line statements. The while statement starts from here and end right here. So as you can see, it spans 4 lines because it has the while statement which starts from here. Then we have the body starting after the colon, and you can see it spans 3 more lines. So, but if you want a statement with just a single item in its body, for example, can span for only a can be on a single line. For example, this is a while statement. This is a while statement on a single. This is a for statement on a single line. We are going to learn all this while and for in later videos, but I'm just trying to show you if a multi-line statement has only one item in its body or only one statement in its body, you can put it on a single line like this. All right, now let's look at this. For multiple line statements, we call the statements within it, we call them a suite. So these 2 statements are within the if condition, while these ones are within the else part of the if-else block. So we call these 2 statements a suite grouped together to form a single statement. So these 2 statements are 2 actual statements, but they can be called a suite, a single suite. Here we have a single suite, here we have a single suite. So as I've shown you, Python statements can be on single line, you see, Python statements can end without a semicolon, just on single lines, on separate lines. Python statements can end with a semicolon, and it also allows them to be on multiple lines. And we have seen that we also have what we call multi-line statements, which have a body, and they consider the body to be part of the statement. And the body of the statement is also known as the suite. Those are those statements under the multi-line statement, like the while, the for, and the if. So in later videos, we are going to be learning more about multi-line statements and those conditional statements. Hope you enjoyed this video and have a nice time. See you in the next video.